Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I don't care how old you are, a lightsaber is always really bloody awesome. Now this lightsaber here, actually that's probably too loud. This lightsaber here is the Defender V1 from Aegis Sabers, which can be found on Etsy. I have never had a fancy lightsaber before, and holy crap, this thing is a whole lot cooler than my old Luke Skywalker's lightsaber from the 90s. Although that lightsaber was still pretty nice. I mean, this hilt's made out of metal, the blade looks really cool, you can change the different colors. As much as I have a problem with the prequels, having a purple blade is pretty neat. You can have, like, the lights pulse or be steady. I had it pulse. And, of course, you can change the sound effects on here as well. I have the Darksaber sound effects since I'm a fan of the old Mando. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as of this recording, I, the mighty GeneralLotz, am now 33 years old. It'll happen to you. It might seem like 30 is a distant land, but it'll be here before you know it. The one thing that I was always worried about as I was growing older was that I'd have to be, like, old. You know, like, you reach a certain age, and, you know, you can't like lightsabers because that's kid stuff. But you know what I found? I found that a lot of that stuff just so happens to be boomerisms. You can still have fun even at age 33. And I'm going to keep having lots and lots of fun. You know, one of the best aspects of growing old, really, has been the ability for me to have fun. For the longest time, I used to have a lot of social anxiety, and so I couldn't really go out and do fun stuff, whereas today I was able to get over all that, so I can go do things like cosplay as Batman at the premiere of The Batman. Whether or not that movie is good or not, I don't really care. I'm just looking forward to having an excuse to dress up as, well, The Batman. So that should be a lot of fun. There's a lot of stuff I've learned over the past 33 years. And like I've said in so many videos throughout the years, being yourself is the best way to be. You know, letting other people program you or command you is not a very good thing. You know, because in life, you pretty much have to rely upon yourself in many circumstances. Now, it's not to say that I haven't had help throughout my entire life. My family has been absolutely amazing from start all the way through now. But there are times where you have to make your own choices, and if you let a government or let some sort of strange ideology command you, you're not going to be doing too well, I can tell you that. But today, I don't really want to get lost in politics, mainly because, as of this recording, there's a big war going on in Ukraine, and, well, it's the world. It's politics. It's what it is. Kind of like that Canadian abomination where you had jackboots trampling people with a horse. I don't know which is worse. The people doing the trampling? Actually, no, they are the worst. Never mind. But almost as bad are the people that support the trampling, so there's that. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about fun stuff. And what we're here to talk about is Star Wars. One of the things I finally realized is the old Star Wars is by far my favorite franchise of all time. I used to think it was Aliens. I used to think it was Star Trek. But really, once I finally started thinking about it, I realized that the vast majority of, like, swag and books and games is Star Wars. Now, that, of course, is not the modern-day abomination from Disney. Rather, it's the true EU from 1991 to 2014, and the true Star Wars from 1977 to 2014. Anything after that is not real Star Wars, in my mind. Even Din Djarin. Din Djarin could be slotted into the real EU, but even he doesn't count. Of course, I say that, and I have a Din Djarin costume, but I've kind of customized it to where it's not really him anymore, which is good. But with that in mind, though, Star Wars is really a unique franchise. You know, the non-fan will talk about, like, laser swords and wizards, but anyone who's read anything Star Wars related will know it's, oh, so much more than that. It is a science fiction universe without compare. It is both serious and fun at the same time. And that's something that was very important. You know, there really is no franchise to replace Star Wars. It's one of those things when, you know, a number of years ago, when I was trying to find some books to read, what I wanted was a science fiction adventure with cool characters doing cool things. what I found was there really was no replacement for Star Wars. 40K most assuredly is not a replacement for Star Wars. 40K has a completely different tone and characters. Star Wars, you could actually have good guys like Han Solo and Luke Skywalker. Whereas 40K, you've got Caiaphas Cain, but he still supports a faction which pretty much anybody would consider evil. Although, in comparison to other factions, the Imperium of Man is not that evil. And I'd like to think that the Imperium of Man, as we hear it most of the time, that's just propaganda. When in all reality, Cain's Imperium of Man is more, well, that's the real one. Because the Imperium of Man seen in the Caiaphas Cain novels makes a whole lot more sense. But anyway, Star Wars, you know, I wanted a book to read where you had a guy with a sword cut a carpet, jump around, or swing on said carpet to another side of a building and cut up some bad guys. There was not a single novel like that. I'm, of course, referencing a scene in Heir to the Empire where Luke Skywalker does just that. But, you know, with the death of Star Wars, or the murder of Star Wars, I should say, there really is nothing to replace that. Most science fiction novels usually have Captain Dude who is good at everything, whereas Luke Skywalker had to earn literally everything he had. Han Solo? Holy crap! Did he have to earn everything he had? You know, the EU really painted one of the greatest universe, probably the greatest universe in science fiction. The depth of lore was every bit as good as 40K, only it was better. So much so that I'm musing on doing a bunch of lore videos, sort of like from an in-universe perspective, about the Star Wars EU. Now, not like from a meta perspective, from like an in-universe perspective, you know, going through the chronology from the pre-Republic days on up to the end of Legacy. I'm really tempted to do that. One of the things that really annoys me about the modern era is you have this Disney shit. It is literal shit. Like, it is in no way even comparable to what the EU was. It's the most shallow, gray mush you could ever have. Even the Timothy Zahn stuff. Timothy Zahn is a great writer when he's actually writing real Star Wars. Most of his other stuff isn't very good. But the fact is, you know, all this crap like, oh, we finally see Boba Fett get out of the Sarlacc. He did that 20 years ago, and the story in which he did that was far better than Book of Boba Fett could ever hope to be. I personally did not dislike Book of Boba Fett as much as everyone else did, but I don't accept it as real or serious, so there's that. I have to say, though, I find it funny that everybody hated the end of that episode, the final episode of Book of Boba Fett, because it was actually the best one yet. I mean, Boba Fett astride a Rancor? I mean, come on, people. How is that bad? It's like, oh, he should have flown in his ship. Yeah, because that's going to be entertaining. But anyway, I think that I would love to do actual lore videos on the real EU from an in-universe perspective, because I think it'd be really cool. Once people see just how good Star Wars was, it'll be more than just laser swords and space wizards. Because right now, I'm doing a read of all the Star Wars comics that I've read back when I was deep into that. I recently read the Dawn of the Jedi comics, which were some of the very last, right up until the very end, Star Wars comics set about 30,000 years before A New Hope. And it was really good. Like, it was the story was amazing. It was Proto-Jedi versus the Rakatan Empire. The Rakata, of course, were seen in Knights of the Old Republic 1, and it was a really good story. It was actually where the Jedi were smart, in that they both had light and dark aspects to themselves, so they could control the dark instead of being afraid of the dark, which would make a lot of sense, but whatever. It's just, I feel bad for Lord of the Rings, because with what has happened to Star Wars, every time I hear, like, oh, we don't know how this works, or we don't know how that works, I'm like, we knew how that worked 20 years ago. Just because you don't know doesn't mean we don't know. But anyway, Lord of the Rings, man, that's going to get the Rings of Power. I feel so bad for those of you who are Lord of the Rings fans. I never got into it myself. I feel so bad because it's not so much the crazy people that are going to like Rings of Power, because there will be the Twitterites who do. It's going to be the lay fans, the fans that know nothing about the franchise other than one or two things. They're like, oh, well, now we know. I mean, who wants to read a book? Yeah, I might be bitter. Because now that I'm back into the EU after all these years, it's like, oh my god, it was good. I'm also, I actually finished Dawn of the Jedi, so I'm now moved on to some earlier comics that I had not read, the Tales of the Jedi. I just never had bought those comics. I'm not entirely sure why, to be honest. But, oh my god, those are good. The Sith actually are smart. They're not completely idiotic and have motivations. I'm actually looking back at some of the EU books that I hated, you know? Like Darksaber. That book is not that bad, now that I think of it, you know? I mean, it's not the best, but it's got an actual plot, and so much is accomplished in just 300 pages. You know, you look at some of this Amazon science fiction, you know, and it's like they take like 5 books to do nothing. Think about all the shit that goes on in Darksaber. It's really one of those things, when I'm reading a book, I can't help but compare it to something like Heir to the Empire. I look at Heir to the Empire, and I think that is one of the best sci-fi trilogies of all time. Even if, let's say Star Wars, the movies, never existed. Just the characters in Heir to the Empire and the rest of the Thrawn trilogy are that good. They have just enough development that they're actually distinct from one another. And there's so much shit that happens in each and every book that it's an epic tale. And they're short books. I don't know what it is. You know, it's like, my god, just wrap it up, people. But yeah, definitely thinking about doing those lore videos, just because I think Star Wars needs more appreciation than it's been getting, because my god, Disney just murdered it. They were jealous of what all those writers had created. They were jealous of George Lucas and what he created. You know, you look at Rey and you look at that, that's not a character. That's nothing. And what's really sad is I think Rey was actually ripped off from the EU. One of the very last comic series to ever be released in the EU was Legacy 2, which starred Han Solo's great-granddaughter. And she works at a junkyard, oh dear, and could potentially be Force sensitive. But she actually has to earn her way to the top instead of just being good at everything. There's even a character that I get the feeling that they ripped him off too to make the Finn character. Because like Finn is supposed to be somewhat Force sensitive, and he's supposed to kind of be Rey's sidekick, sort of. Well, this character in the Legacy #2 comic, he's actually an Imperial Knight, which is like a Jedi Knight, only they work for Fel's Imperium. And if you don't know anything about the EU, read a book. And it's like, that looks a lot like Finn, only way better, because he actually gets to do stuff and isn't just sidelined by Rey every 5 seconds. So yeah, very tempted to just do some Star Wars stuff. But anyway, I guess you probably want to hear about what reviews are coming out. Prey 2017 is coming along a piece, and it's a very long game. Finally got all the gameplay footage. I actually got all the gameplay footage for another review on a game called Outward, which is like Skyrim but better. But Prey is going to take a long time. It's going to be out probably March 31st. It's going to probably take me the entire month to do it, because I got to script it, got to edit it all, and that is, like I said, it's a long game. I got like 10 hours of gameplay footage for that bloody thing. Prey 2017, I can tell you right now, it is an absolutely amazing game. As of 2017, I thought I was done with gaming. I thought I somehow had outgrown it. No, it's just I had played all my old games all the time, and there weren't that many good new games. So once I finally got a good new game, I was very happy. But Prey 2017, I can basically spoil most of the review here. It is a first-person shooter / open world / RPG / survival horror game. And if you like all those things, it is perfection. The graphics don't really like 2K as much as they did 1080p, though. I got a lot of pop in. But it's got a great story, cyberpunk, horror, cosmic horror, absolutely amazing. And that's going to take me about a month to do. I mean, it took me like 2 months to get Fallout New Vegas done, which I'm glad everybody enjoyed that review. But good God, did that take forever. And I actually had an advantage of already having all the saves I needed to get the right footage, whereas Prey, I had to start from beginning to end. And I had to kind of force myself to not play the game and just try to rush to the end. So yeah, that's coming out, and that's pretty much it for March. I'm just going to keep doing the live streams. I don't have any time for book reviews. I have some ideas to do some book reviews at some point, but I don't know when that's going to be. The only problem with doing these big retrospectives is it really kind of limits my time to do anything else video related. But, well, quality over quantity, I say. If I do a book review, it's probably going to be one big one on a bunch of books at some point later in the year. I kind of have like this idea of doing like GeneralLotz's top 50 books and giving like little mini reviews for all 50 books, but I don't know if that's going to happen, especially with that Star Wars lore idea. I've had ideas to like do some more comic reviews. It's just there's not enough time to do everything, and nobody really watches those anyway. They get so many less views on the games, and so, but yeah, I highly recommend reading Dawn of the Jedi. I highly recommend reading Tales of the Jedi. Both absolutely amazing comic series. As for book recommendations, if you didn't like Book of Boba Fett, I highly recommend reading the Bounty Hunter Wars trilogy. I had not read it since the early 2000s. Having reread it now, holy crap was it good. Boba Fett's an actual bad guy that can potentially do good things. If you want the real Boba Fett, read that. If you want drunk Uncle Fett, watch the show. But yeah, Bounty Hunter Wars, all 3 books, absolutely excellent. Boba Fett gets fucked up in the Sarlacc. He loses a leg! And like, he actually... there's a... Book of Boba Fett rips off Bounty Hunter Wars, but it's 25% different, so they won't get sued. In Bounty Hunter Wars, you have flashbacks to earlier times in Boba Fett's life. And these flashbacks are actually entertaining because it has Boba Fett doing Boba Fett things, like bringing down the Bounty Hunters Guild. Oh dear. You know, it's so sad. It's so sad indeed. A fantasy book I recommend reading is Inderall, Dreams of Dying. Inderall is actually a Skyrim mod that I did a live stream on many years ago, but I didn't really like it all that much. Just didn't really get into the world, didn't really get into the gameplay, just didn't really like it that much. But good God, is the book good. It's got a fairly entertaining universe. There's magic, but it's known only to a few. It's got some modernisms in it, but they work well enough. Basically, I like to look at the book as sort of like Witcher, but Witcher for me, I guess. I don't really like Witcher that much just due to its bleak tone, whereas Inderall is a little more hopeful. The characters in that are there's basically this guy named Jespar, who is a former mercenary, and he's got to like save some guy who's in a coma. Just the writing style and the universe were really what did it for me. It's pretty much a generic fantasy, but it's actually a bit more realistic in terms of the mentality of what somebody like that would have. The Jespar character has had a very difficult life. He's got the PTSD, and the book really kind of shows that a lot. And I really think that adds a dimension to that Jespar's character. Jespar was actually in Inderall, the game, but I don't remember him at all. But Inderall is one of those things where it is a fun adventure. Doesn't quite reach Star Wars levels, but still pretty good if you want a little fantasy thing. Going back to gaming, Doom 2016. Been replaying that as of late. I'm looking at it from a non-hype perspective and from a non-backlash perspective. Because when Doom 2016 came out, I did not have the same mentality I do today back then. Because it's like, oh, what is Doom 2016 thinks it's as good as the original? Now it's like, I'm looking at it on its own merits, and it's a lot better than I remember. I'll have to compare it directly with Doom Eternal, which I'm going to play as soon as I beat Doom 2016 again. But Doom 2016, I mean, it's perfectly fun. I mean, from what I remember of Doom Eternal had way too many upgrades. Way too many upgrades you had to get. There goes my phone. I'll have to check that in a minute. Way too many upgrades, and I felt like the arenas in Doom Eternal lasted way too long. Whereas in Doom 2016, the arenas don't last that long. They're fairly large, and the upgrades are reasonable. If you haven't played Doom 2016 in a while, I highly recommend taking a look at that again. Let's see, what else we got here, ladies and gentlemen. In terms of gaming, I did get all the gameplay footage for Outward, which, as I said, was Skyrim, but better. It's very hard to find a good RPG these days, just because they're very difficult to make, and what RPGs that do exist are either top-down or woke. Whereas Outward, thankfully, is not either one of those things. And it's one of those games where I didn't really want to beat it, because once I beat it, I don't really have any other RPGs to play at the moment. But it is third-person Skyrim with Dark Souls combat, with the needs system from Fallout New Vegas, and a world that is pretty cool. I mean, it's a fantasy RPG, although guns do exist and you can use them, and they are helpful. The world is just big enough. I think I've talked about this game before, but it is a game that I did not know existed until I say just recently, it was about a year ago, but I randomly came across a review of that game, and I picked it up, and it's like, that's got to be the best indie game I've played since Dusk. Like, it's way up there. Another gaming thing is the Steam Deck is almost upon us. I'm very excited about it. I've already had it pre-ordered for some time now, and it's like, is it going to be the next generation of portable PC gaming? I sincerely hope it is, because like, that thing would be very convenient. And it's cheap. $400 for something like that? You can't get anything like that for that price. And we'll see. I might do like a short video on it if it's actually good. If it's bad, I'm just going to send the fucking thing back. But if it's good, I might talk about it myself. It's just finding time for all that stuff. And one other gaming topic, although I can't remember what it is now. Ah, well. In any event, ladies and gentlemen, I think I've waffled on enough. Star Wars is great. Read Dawn of the Jedi, Bounty Hunter Wars. You will not be disappointed. And for now, I'm GeneralLotz, wishing you good. I have to like hold it away from the microphone so it doesn't drown me out. Good dark saber, or whatever makes you happy. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and please consider leaving a like or a comment, as the algorithm desires your soul. And I want to thank all those fans who have supported this channel, both past and present.